Welcome to How To with J&A. Today we're making lovely Easter hot cross buns. They have a white cross on the top and they're eaten by Christians all over the world at Easter time to remember the death of Jesus on a cross and also to celebrate that he rose from the dead and that he forgives people their sin. Now we're going to start making the first part of these lovely buns. So I've got some warm milk and I'm going to add in some yeast. So I've got 2/3 of a cup of warm milk. I'm going to add in 1 packet of dry active yeast. And then I've got 1/4 cup of sugar, and we're using the rest of this later, but just now I'm going to add in 2 teaspoons of the sugar. Now this is just your starter to make the dough rise. So you just want to stir this up and set this aside while we get the rest of the ingredients ready. So just stir it in well. And that will begin to activate. So I've got 2.5 cups of strong bread flour, and I'm adding in the other part of the 1/4 cup of sugar. Give it a quick stir round. And we're going to reserve about 1/2 cup of this flour mixture and we'll add that in later. So I've got 2 tablespoons of softened butter. You want that very soft. And 1 medium egg. And some nice vanilla extract. You want about a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And now I'm going to zest a lemon. So this is a microplane, that's the brand name of this one, but these graters are very, very good to use for grating oranges and lemons. So when you grate a lemon, you just want to grate the bright yellow part. You don't want any of the white because that can be bitter. So you just work your way around and it's very finely grated. And these microplanes, they're really good to also use for Parmesan cheese and grating garlic, as well as lots of other things. But they're very easy to use. So you just keep working your way around until you get all the lemon in. And then you just give it a quick tap and that's you. So I've just got a wooden spoon, and as I say, this is the no knead method. So you just give it a quick stir up and you don't have to knead it at the end. And then we're going to start adding in the rest of the liquid. So you can see that the yeast has already foamed up and is active. So you can also use a food processor, and in that case you would just put it onto the bread making dough hook and you would just beat it like you would normally beat bread or a sweet dough like this, and that would be probably for about 10 minutes. So I'm going to beat this for about 2 or 3 minutes just by hand. I'm going to add in some salt, that's 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And at this stage you can add in some cinnamon or some mixed spice, but I've had cinnamon hot cross buns recently, so I'm going to leave that out and just make plain ones today. But if you were going to add it in, you put 2 teaspoons of either cinnamon or mixed spice, or 1 of each, and that gives you a nice spiced bun. So I've added in 1/4 cup of sultanas and 2 tablespoons of candied or mixed peel. And I'm just going to mix that in thoroughly. Then we're adding in the remainder of the flour. And this is going to bring your dough back to being quite a firm bread dough consistency. So you can see it's quite a firm mix, and then we're just going to get it out, give it a light knead, and then we're going to set it to proof. So you want to just scrape that down. And then I've got it on this piece of parchment paper. Now I have added a little more flour, and you probably will have to add just a little more just to work it round. So as I say, it's quite a soft dough, but it's not too sticky, it's not too dry. You really want to get it a sort of in between. And then you're going to prove it, so that means leaving it covered in a warm place, and you want to do that for 1.5 hours because there's fruit, there's egg, there's milk. It's what they call an enriched dough, and that means it's actually a bit heavier, so you prove it for a bit longer than you would regular bread. So I'm going to put this into an oiled bowl, just a wee bit of sunflower oil. We pop that in there and cover it and leave that to rest. So this is now the glaze that goes on top that gives the hot cross buns a lovely shine. So that's 3 teaspoons of sugar, 3 teaspoons of water, and then I'm going to microwave it until, I'm going to mix it as well, but I'm going to microwave it until it just heats through thoroughly, and it will become like a sugar syrup, just a very thin syrup. And then this is the part for the white cross that goes on top. So this is just a flour and water paste. So you put 3 tablespoons of plain flour. And then you just want to add in about 3 tablespoons of water. Now you just want, it's a bit like making icing sugar, you just want to do this by eye. Just add the water until you think you've got a really good consistency. So when you work with flour, it's quite good to mix it as a thick paste first, because if you just add lots of water you can end up with lumps. So I'm mixing this quite stiff, and then I'm going to add the water to make the best consistency. So I can see that's not going to pipe. You want to put this in a piping bag, so it needs to be quite thin in order for it to pipe the cross on the top. So if it can hold a trail, it's probably about right. I'm just adding a little more water until I think I've got the right consistency. And that's it there. So I'm going to show you just now how to make an easy piping bag if you don't have one. So this is greaseproof paper, or parchment paper some people call it. You want quite a heavy one, and you just fold it in half and then just turn it into a cone. And you can use this to pipe. They're not very sturdy, but they will do for such a quick pipe. So you just see there's a hole in the middle, and you can just pipe with that. So this is the dough mixture, and this has risen for 1.5 hours. You want to flour your board and then just tip it out. So any bread making, once it's risen for the first time, you want to knock out the air. So you just fold it over, give it a very light knead, and that takes the air out after the first rise. And now I'm going to start portioning it up to make the buns. So what I found with this mixture is if I weighed it out to 2.5 ounces each bun, then I get 9 buns, and that was just the perfect amount for this mixture. And then you just want to shape them round. So the easiest way to do that is to make them into a ball, and just sort of, you almost like pull the back and then just roll them in your hand, and that gives you a nice circle and a nice bun shape. And then these go into a tin and they prove for 1 hour in a warm place. So what I do is I sit them next to a radiator, and that helps them just to be in a warm place. And I did read about someone who put them in a tumble dryer. What they do is they put the tumble dryer on for a few minutes and then they just leave it off, obviously, and then they put in their bread or their buns and then they can rise. I don't know if I fancy that or not, but that might actually work as well. Some people also leave it in an oven with just the light on, and that's enough to help them to prove. But you do need somewhere fairly warm so they rise up. And now we're going to pipe. So what I'm going to do is I'm just holding the end with my 2 fingers at the bottom, just so the mixture doesn't fall through. Now obviously if you've got a piping bag, you just use your piping bag the way you would normally. This is just a quick method. So you just want to spoon all your mixture in. Now I'm kind of aiming right at the bottom. I'm trying not to get it to slide all down the sides. And then just want to fold the top down. And I should say at this point, please preheat your oven to 200 degrees and have that nice and hot before you start this stage. So you just snip the top off and then you're ready to pipe. So the easiest way to do this is just go in one big long line, and you can just sort of dip down as you get to each individual bun. And that's it. And the next row. And the buns take various times to cook. It depends on how large you can make the buns. These are a sort of fairly medium size. You can make large ones and they would take a little longer to bake. So these took about 16 minutes for me, but it will be between 14 and 20 minutes. It depends on the size and it depends on how hot your oven is. But you want to keep them in the middle of an oven. Don't put them too high up or they could burn at the top. And then this makes the cross part. So hot cross buns are now sold in the UK all year round. They're so popular. There's lots of different variations. You can have them with cinnamon, they can have apple inside them. Some of the supermarkets make them with things like fudge or chocolate. So all year round you can get different kinds. And that's your white cross. And then this is them out of the oven. So they look lovely, but the last thing to do is put this lovely shiny glaze. Now as you put it on, it's a bit like varnish. It really brings up the colour. So you want to do this after they've been out of the oven for about 5 minutes. You don't want to let them go cold and you don't want to do it too hot. About 5 minutes out of the oven and then you just brush on your lovely shiny glaze. And it really makes them shine up. So these taste a little like panettone. As I say, if you add in cinnamon, then they're a lovely spice mix. But they're a really nice fruited bun, and they go really well with butter in the middle or toasted. A lot of people have them toasted, and you can eat them any time of day. People eat them for breakfast, they eat them for mid-morning coffee and also afternoon, but they're really, really nice. And as I say, when you put this glaze on, it sort of just soaks in just a little and it gives it a lovely sticky coating. And there you go, you see the lovely white crosses and they're baked in so pretty. So I hope that you give this recipe a try. As I say, you can try different variations, you can add different fruits, and you can also add the cinnamon if you want. So I hope that you give it a try, and I also hope that you can subscribe to our channel. Please give us a thumbs up and like the video, and you can also become a Patreon if you want to support our work. There's information on how you do that down below underneath the video. So thanks again for watching. Bye.